I'm Steve Moriarty. I come to you from MoreGems.com online, and we also have a retail store in Crown Point, Indiana. Today I want to talk to you about cutting styles and what I use to determine how I'm going to cut a gem. Many gems you can just take the piece of rough, cut out what's bad, and determine what the biggest stone you can get out of it and go ahead and cut. But other gems is a different situation. For instance, tourmaline. We have here a green tourmaline. It's a beautiful blue-green from Afghanistan. The direction of cutting for color is the AB axis, which is this direction. This is the C axis. And if we look at it, you can see there's some yellow coloration to it. And often the C axis is totally black. So we want to cut on the AB axis for color, and we'll generally cut the ends of the stone very steep so that awkward yellowy green color or the black does not come into the stone itself. Each tourmaline is different. This is pink tourmaline from Nigeria. The best color is actually down the C axis, but because this is a fairly small stone, the C-axis direction, you would only get maybe 3 carats out of it, or if you're lucky. This direction, you get 6 carats. But fortunately, this material you can heat treat, and this direction that has a little bit of brown to it currently will cut a nice pale pink stone. So we can also cut this on the AB axis and get a nice gem. Barrels generally always cut on the AB axis. This is aquamarine, and emerald will be the same situation where the best color will be on the AB axis, not down the C. And it's fortunate because the large size you'll get out of this stone much greater on the AB axis. And these are generally cut in emerald cuts, as the tourmalines are, just because of the crystal shape. You'll get the best yield from an emerald cut stone. So this is going to cut a long, thin emerald cut. Tanzanite, a little different situation. We have a trichroic gem, and I'll try and show you the 3 colors that are in Tanzanite. In the rough material, the colors are yellow, purple, and blue. Once it's heated, the yellow will disappear. So let me try and show you the 3 colors that are in the stone. This is a dichroic film. So this is one direction of color. Keep in mind that the yellow that are in these are going to disappear when the gem's ultimately done. And the third direction, let me get it straight for you. So that's the 3 directions of color. Some think that cutting on the blue direction, which would appear to you as the blue and yellow in this case, is the best. It's nice to get an all blue stone because it is rare to get stones that are strongly to the blue. But the ultimate beauty of the stone, any direction you cut it, in my opinion, you should just be cutting for size and not for weight, because it's expensive material and size is important. Zircons, another stone that particularly the blues. This is a stone from Tanzania, but the blues from Cambodia have a consideration, and that's strong birefringence. And what strong birefringence does is when you cut the gem, if it's cut off the optic axis, you can get what's called doubling. And doubling is the back facets. Ideally, each facet, each line where they meet will show up as one line, but when you get doubling, you actually get 2 lines. And what this does is make the gem look hazy because of the multiple facet lines. So it's a consideration in faceting, but a piece like this, there's only one direction to cut it. Otherwise, you'll get a very small gem. So you take what you got, you cut it, and you hope for the best. Clarity is another situation. When you clean up what you can off a stone, there still may be inclusions in it, and your concern will be getting the inclusions as far out of the center table as possible. The further out to the edge, under the crown facets, the less the inclusions will be noticed. And things like fractures, if you can get them vertical in the gem, which meaning perpendicular to the table, they'll show up less. And this is particularly true in material like rubellite, where they have needles that are all in one direction. They're just like needles in the stone. And if you look at rubellite's cut, those needles are perfectly perpendicular to the table, and they're very difficult to see, even though there may be multiple needles within the gem. Color is another consideration, how deep the material is. Lighter gems you can cut in almost any fashion, and they can produce a beautiful gem. Cutting round brilliance in light material will produce a lot of brilliance. You can do pear shapes, marquees, things with long lengths to widths in light gems, whereas in dark gems like this material, which is amethyst that comes from Rwanda, a very dark material. And if you cut long length width like pear shapes and marquees, what's going to happen is the ends of the gem will be very dark. So we tend to want to cut squares, emerald cuts, round brilliance, and not cut too deep because depth will accentuate the depth of the color. And in dark material, this can just produce a black gem. So in this material, I've tended to cut rounds and square cushions. Emerald cuts work fine, limiting the depth of the stone. Although this very dark material you can lighten by heating, so that does give you an option to cut other styles of cuts. Although deep color in this material is what makes it so beautiful, so just avoid marquees, pear shapes. Other gems that have issues would be sapphire. This material comes from Madagascar. It appears light color in the rough, but what you find in sapphire is that it's heavily color zoned. So the zones form a hexagon shape within the gem, and there can be just small sections of color. And the goal for you is to either put the color into the culet of the stone, because I've seen stones from Sri Lanka where only the culet has color. And if you face it up, it shows a beautiful blue color. If you look at it from the side, you can see that the whole gem is colorless except at the culet. So it's very important where you put the color. So you need to immerse this gem and identify just where the color's at, and work to either get it in the culet, or if it's a wide enough band, you can spread it across the whole crown of the stone, and it will spread through the rest of the gem, even if that rest of that gem is colorless. Emerald cuts and step cuts tend to deepen the color of a gem. So if you want it to look darker, a richer color, those are cuts worth using. Deep cuts like Portuguese cuts will also tend to accentuate color, because depth, like looking through water, the deeper you look, the darker the apparent color is. So cutting a deep gem will accentuate the color, but in dark gems, it's probably not what you want, because you'll get over-colored stones. Brilliant cuts do tend to lighten the color, but it's a trade-off, because the brilliance you get can be more important than how light the color is. As we look at a diamond, you see that the brilliance is what you're looking at, not the color of the stone, but add a little color to it, and round brilliance and square brilliance can be some of the most beautiful stones, even though they aren't deep color. So it's a good trade-off, cutting a good brilliant gem that has 1-to-1 proportions if you have the opportunity. So it's very important to choose your rough wisely, know what the limitations of the particular rough is, and if it has issues, you just reject it and go on and try and find something that'll not only give you a good yield, but give you good color and a beautiful brilliance. So I'm Steve Moriarty, coming to you from MoreGems.com, and we thank you for watching.